What is up, everyone? Tis I, Z Gaming Guy. Welcome to some Z Talks. Now, if you don't know how this works, we basically... and okay, we got it. All right, let's move on now. Actually, before I move on, I want to do a little test with you guys. So I think we've all heard of like those kind of weird tricks as kids. Okay, so like you ever hear the one where like you have a friend, they lay down, everyone can pick them up with their fingers if you do certain things or whatever, crap like that. There's one thing that I always found funny because at a young age I was able to do this, and like no one except for like one other person was able to do this. So if you take one hand, right, and you're rotating it forward, so right now my right hand is rotating forward like this, and you take the other hand and rotate backwards like this, try doing those at the same time. So one's going forward and one's going backward simultaneously. A lot of people can't do it, and I think it's fucking hilarious. I can't get enough of it when I see people failing. So I'm gonna put that out to you. Just try it. Just try it real quick. See if your brain can handle it. If so, good on you. You have really good coordination. If you can't, don't feel bad because rarely anyone can. But moving on to the actual topic at hand, I just felt like putting it out there, just having fun with y'all. Okay, as for the questions before that I asked or were just mentioned that you guys answered, everyone answered only the part about should public figures apologize and what you think about it. So with that said though, feel free to answer like anything I talk about, even as questions from you guys. If other people feel like answering, just seeing what they think on it, I will read it. I'm very interested, and if like I do see those, I'll read them in the video as well, showing answers. But as for the whole public figure part, pretty much 90%, 95% said about the same thing, which was basically that it seems pointless. It does seem like a PR move to make themselves look better, especially if they have something like sad music or whatever. You might have seen the whole Philip thing with a plagiarism for the Dead Cells review. His was very overdramatic. Logan Paul, whatever, did the same kind of thing where it was over-dramatized, sad music, blah, blah, blah. So those are definitely, they're aware of what they're doing, and they're putting themselves as the victim. Those are bad. Those are really bad. As for other apologies, like the one with, again, Dr. Disrespect, his felt very genuine because he was on the verge of crying. No one knew about it, so he's the one who brought it up. And it sucks because cheating is one of those things where I'm like, that shouldn't be excused. But because I like him, it was I had an easier time being like, God damn it! Like if he repents, fine. But if it's like Logan Paul who was like, oh, I cheated, I'd be like, man, you're a scumbag. There's no redeeming you. Like there's just favoritism, and it can't be helped. Also, though, there were some people who said, well, sometimes it's necessary. If you want to, like, just let the people know you need a break to take care of some issues. You don't necessarily need to say exactly what's going on, but the internet's the internet. People will probably find out, so maybe it's a good thing to just put it out there anyway. You don't necessarily need to apologize for it. That part is still iffy, but if it does affect your fans in any way, then you should, which I agree with. Like I was mentioning, anyone affected by what you're doing should be apologized to, and it should be genuine. But I do understand why people are saying maybe you need to let them know what's going on if you need a break, or maybe why you're not in as great of a mood or something. So I get that. I think that's fair. Just maybe the whole, it's not so much what the YouTuber's doing or the public figure about the apology. It's what people expect is what I was annoyed by, is the people who aren't them and aren't involved or expecting apologies for whatever reason. Those are the people I get annoyed with. It's not so much if the public figure apologizes or not, but that is also an issue on a whole similar topic. But that was essentially you guys' answers. I wasn't going to go into specifics just because there was a lot of the same kind of stuff, but that was what you guys said. So let's move on to your questions. Starting off with a fun one, we got JJ Boy A asking, what are your thoughts about the Alex Jones ban? Do you think it was justified, or do you fear the silence of his voice? What would you do if major companies started to shut people freedom of speech down if it goes against their agenda? Agenda is a pretty strong word. If it was some sort of agenda, then that would be wrong. Like, let's say you're a certain party, you're Democrat, you're Republican, whatever, and you're shutting down the voice of people who oppose you. Yeah, that's an issue. But Alex Jones is a whole nother ball game. I agree with YouTube. When you sign up for YouTube or for Twitter or whatever, there's guidelines clearly stated, don't cross these, there'll be repercussions. He either ignored them, or he ignored them, is essentially it. Or it was a conspiracy against, I don't know, it's Alex Jones. It was justified, I think, because at the end of the day, it is their platform. You know, it's their area. If I invite you guys into my home and someone's being a dickhead, I have the right to kick them out. That's essentially what they're doing on a larger scale. So I think for a public figure like him, especially, it's easier to see him because he stands out so much. Even lesser public figures like myself, or just 100,000 subscribers or something like that, they can get away with more because their eyes aren't on them. You know what I mean? So I think it makes sense, and sometimes there is going to be double standards because, like I said, they're just more noticeable. Everyone's going to notice anytime Trump puts out a tweet about anything, and they're going to read into it. And I don't really like Trump, but people read into his tweets too much a lot of the time still. You know, because people always try to glean information, be like, oh, well, he used this word when he could have used this word, so maybe he meant this then. It's like, or maybe he just doesn't have as good of a vocabulary as you. You know what I mean? It's just, I think you're looking too much into it sometimes, and that's just internet for you. But so to answer your question, am I concerned? Not really. Do I think it was justified? Yeah. And it doesn't help that I don't really like Alex Jones all that much. I mean, maybe if I was somehow followed up on him, I mean, the dude's like a meme creator, so I guess there's that. But other than that, I mean, I couldn't care less if I heard less about him. So it's kind of hard for me to say. Like, let's say instead of him, it was someone I liked. It's hard because, like I said earlier, there's a favoritism, and if they fucked up, it'd be hard for me to fully go against them because I'm like, oh, you were so cool though. But, you know, I guess it's justified in the end. Ray's up with the next one saying, since you wanted to lie to question, when are you going to play Werewolves Within? Been waiting for like a freaking year for you to play it. I know, and trust me, I think of it every now and then when I look at my VR headset. For those of you who don't know, Werewolves Within, assuming I'm thinking of the same game, is essentially like, there's like a circle of people, one of them is a werewolf, and it's in VR, and you have to trick the other people to get others killed as an elimination process, like people vote on who they think it is. So you gotta, like, you know, subtly get other people killed, and he thinks that'd be fun to see that happen, and I do think it'd be fun. I think at the time you had mentioned it, it was a little too expensive for me, and right now I'm kind of having a money issue too, so I don't know when that'll happen. Last I saw was like $40, I think, or $30 maybe. But we'll see. I mean, it is something I want to eventually get to, but I say that about a lot of games, and things just keep piling up, so no promises, but I'd like to get to it. Next question is from Aristides, asking, my question is, have you ever been into mobile games, and if yes, which? Usually no, but there was one mobile game I was like super addicted to, and it was kind of like Pokemon, but like you can't control what they do. You just get like random rolls of certain characters, and there's like a single player, but you can face other people in the server. I can't remember for life of me what it was called, but I was really into that game, and I was like one of the most powerful people in the server, and I was like, fear me! And every time someone got in an argument in the server, I would fight one of them and kill him, and then they'd be like, why does he always fight us? It was good times, but that's really the only time I got into any mobile games. What about you guys? I know like a lot of people are kind of into the Fortnite mobile game, but a lot of people are into Fortnite in fucking general. So I don't know if they introduce like Pokemon like to mobile, I'd be all over it. But they're not ever gonna because they hate money apparently. They hate just putting out good ideas. Next one is from Lisa asking, what extreme sport or recreation activity would you try? For example, skydiving, rock climbing, river rafting. I've actually been river rafting. I can't remember the level it was, but it wasn't too bad, the river rafting. It was just kind of like, I don't know, I am kind of freaked out about water sometimes because I always hear about people who like, there's like a strong current by a rock which causes this little like vortex underneath. It like pushes down and causes like a small like twirl. So people would get like sucked into it basically and pinned down and twirling under like the rock. That freaks me out, man. That kind of stuff is creepy. And I of course went like the path splits and converges, and I was on one side. My brother's like, "Hey, don't go over there. There's like a small drop." I'm like, what? I'm like freaking out. And of course, my thing flips, and I'm like, I'm gonna die. I'm dead. Goodbye, everyone. And it was fine, but it was still freaky. So I might do that again, but after like all this, like, this is horrible, I'll do it again though. Oh yeah, I like that punishment. It makes me feel alive. But other than that, if I was gonna try something, it'd probably be skydiving. Because if something goes wrong, I'll die quick at least. Bungee jumping freaks me out too. I feel like more can go wrong, but skydiving feels like such a rush, I guess, that I'd probably go for that. But I don't know. What about you guys? Anything like that for you? Or I'd do Russian roulette, but instead of bullets, it'd shoot fudge. I might die of diabetes later, but I mean, that'd be pretty intense. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to eat too much fudge, but you get this like fudge sweat going on, and it's pretty intense. So I'd do that too. Next one is from Paradox, asking, how do you feel about battle royales at the moment? Do you think Fortnite will last a long time, or do you think it will die to new releases? I think Fortnite won't die simply due to the fact that it is free, and spending $60 for a potentially good game is a risk a lot of people can't afford to do. And that's a good point. I essentially agree with you. And if you're asking, like, do I think Fortnite will die to other battle royales? No. It's already established. Then again, we didn't think about PUBG, to be fair. Could be that the difference is just the fact, mainly that it's free. I mean, sure, people want to argue that it's better due to this or that. But that's not really the point. I mean, imagine Fortnite wasn't free from the beginning. I don't know that it would have garnered as much success as it has. So I think the free part is very important. And if another one comes out to be free, similar to it, has like a similar structure, it better be really damn good. And maybe it will compete with Fortnite. I don't think it'll dethrone it. I don't think that's possible at this point. But as for how I feel about the Battle Royale genre, it's interesting, but they're not doing enough with it to keep it as interesting as it could be. Like, okay, imagine a Battle Royale in a fantasy world. And not only do you need to deal with players, but occasionally there are roaming monsters. Or like there's like dragons and shit, and there's more emphasis on melee combat potentially, or like archery. And maybe like this same game has several settings where there's like a fantasy map where it has swords and magic and stuff, and then there's a sci-fi map which is more, tech oriented. And like I said, there's more PvE elements. That'd be pretty cool. Like maybe there's like particular zones that are known to be dangerous. So if you are the last person on your team alive against 4 and they're chasing you down, maybe you take the risk running through the dangerous zone and hoping that you can use the beasts to aid you, essentially. Not that they will, but maybe you can get lucky enough. I think something like that would be a lot cooler than just people. I don't know. So I think for me to get interested again in it more is it's going to have to do something like that. Just some similar kind of concept where there's a lot of people, last one alive wins, but like more, if that makes sense. What about you guys? What's like the perfect Battle Royale concept to you? Next up, we have Youngblood asking, what is your favorite genre of video games? And while we're at it, do you have a least favorite? So my favorite genre would be RPGs, for sure. For one, they're a good bang for your buck. Usually interesting stories, pretty in-depth combat, typically. So RPGs for me, for sure. As for least favorite, that one's a little hard. Initially I was thinking racing, but then like when I think about Grand Theft Auto, I like the racing in it. When I think about Mario Kart, it's enjoyable. But I guess something like SimCity, some sort of like keeping up a town, a populace or something. Like not like an RTS. RTSs can be fun, but the SimCity kind. I don't really like those all that much. And then I want to sometimes, like Spore. I wanted to like it. I just couldn't. I couldn't get into it. Granted, it was kind of like a meh game, according to a lot of people. So I guess I'll let you guys in on this, those of you watching. I do plan on releasing a video. I wasn't talking about this because I wanted to surprise you guys, but I guess I'll talk about it and see what you think. It's relevant to this question, that's why I'm saying it. I'm going to put out a video where I talk about my favorite games in each major genre. So we'll go through and I'll talk about what my favorite RPG game is, what my favorite story-driven game is, like the ones that like gameplay isn't as focused, something like Detroit Become Human, what my favorite platformer is, etc. I'll probably have like 10 or so categories, or maybe you guys can suggest some if you have any suggestions you want me to go through. So I'm thinking about doing that. hopefully soon. It's going to be a lot of editing, especially if I have to record the gameplay myself. I might just use trailer footage or something, but let me know what you think about that. Because if there's a lot of negative feedback to that, then maybe I just won't do it. But that's something I'm thinking about doing, so yeah. Next question is from Jake, saying, which game have you played that you want remastered because you know it will be good? So, my answer is gonna be a little cheating, I feel like. I'm looking for a remaster more similar to Resident Evil 2, where it's the same thing, but different perspective. The graphics are updated, the voice acting, all that stuff is just very much updated. That's the kind of remaster I'm looking for. And with that said, I would like a remaster of Pokemon, you know, red, blue, yellow. Probably yellow, I guess, would probably be best. And I want it to be on the Switch. I want it to be in third-person perspective kind of thing, not a top-down, not a, you know, asymmetric kind of view. Third person, and it's like a free roam kind of thing. I think that'd be really cool. I think if they did something like that, I'd be on board for sure. Because for one, nostalgia goggles will be on, and two, they just do it. You'll make money. Do things good, Nintendo. You always fucking play my videos, so apparently you really like money. How about for you guys? Any games you like remastered? At first I was going to go with the Soul Calibur 3, just because I like Chronicles of the Sword mode, but I'd rather have them just make a new one, so that's why I went with the Pokemon. But what about you guys? Next up we got Bulletface saying, for the next Z Talk, what do you think of modern music from dubstep to modern rap? Do you think music should go back to glam metal and rock and roll like it was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? Well, yeah. I mean, I think music should always be evolving, regardless of the genre. But I am not into country. I'm not into rap, which I feel like is just dominating everything. And the pop, not really into pop. I mean, I'm metal. I'm a metalhead, okay? Like, that's like my main thing. Metal, I like symphonic stuff, you know, like Two Steps from Hell. I don't know if you've heard of that group, but they make some really cool music. So the modern music today, I couldn't tell you a modern, like if I listened to the radio, I couldn't tell you who the hell is playing, because I don't care. I don't like them. So if it went back to like where rock was the focus, I'd be happy. But I don't so much want the old style of rock as I would. Basically, I want the America to accept power metal more. I really love power metal. Power metal is great. Queen, it like almost has power metal vibes sometimes. They're like a power metal ballad just all the time. But Iron Maiden is very close to power metal. But power metal is just this like totally uplifting, cool genre that I'm like, why won't more people listen to this? So more like, I just want that to happen, but that's just my personal thing. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you guys like rap and stuff. And, you know, as for like electronic dubstep and stuff, I do like it sometimes. Like, ooh, what's the song? The Fat Rat Unity. I was into that song for a very long time. So that kind of stuff I'm cool with. But yeah, the modern music today, just not into it. And that does it for all of your questions. So some pretty interesting questions in there. I'd love to hear your own answers to all of them. Just to, you know, I just like reading what you guys have to say. But I'm going to have my own question for you now, as usual at the end. What is a use for any superpower that is typically not thought of? So, for example, when I talked about telekinesis, I mentioned how, like, let's just say you put out like this line with your telekinesis. Could you feel things moving through it? If so, maybe you can trail it as you walk and have it kind of sit there as you're like focusing to keep it there, and you can feel people walking through so you know if someone's coming. Stuff like that. I think that's cool. Or like mild spoilers from My Hero Academia. Someone mentions how they can pass through walls and stuff. They say how hard it is though, because you need to first focus keeping your planted foot not able to go through stuff as you slowly transfer your other foot to go through the wall, and then as it passes through you need to solidify it so you can step and then pull your other one through as you make that go through. Like just the process of how you have to, you can't just turn it on and off, you have to like shift it to parts of your body. I was like, wow, yeah, that sounds a lot more complicated than normal. So I'm curious, like, if any of you have any ways you think of powers you're like, no one ever thinks about this though. For example, also, like, back to telekinesis, because that's what I always think about the most. Like, let's say you are in your car and you're looking through your window and you want to push over like a trash can. You just want to like knock it over. Your first thought might be to just shoot like a blast of telekinesis at it and knock it over. But the problem is if you do that, you'll probably break your window or just anything in your way. So what you need to do is imagine it forming like in front of it and then push. You can't just, you know what I mean? You gotta like think about how you're gonna do it too. Or if you went to like pick up a soda can or something, you can't imagine an arm reaching out and grabbing it, or you could if nothing was in your way. You might have to like actually like imagine something clamping onto it. Or if you surrounded yourself in a barrier so no one could hurt you, you gotta like occasionally open up holes so that you don't run out of oxygen in there because you're cutting off things even though you can't see it. So it's interesting to think of stuff like that, because when you think of it like that, like the best thing to do against someone who has telekinesis is to use gas and like lock them in a room, because eventually they're going to have to open it or they'll run out of air. But if they do that, they'll let this poisonous gas in or whatever to kill them. So I don't know. I just like thinking about stuff like that. It's just like cool to come up with interesting ways you can use powers. So I'm just curious what any of you guys have to say about that. But anyway, that does it for me, you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'm going to be putting out hopefully soon the next episode, or the first episode of The Walking Dead final season, because I did the previous season on this channel and I'd like to continue. I'd like to continue Life is Strange eventually. Just got to set aside 5 hours of recording for both of those. Just two things, 5 hours of recording. That's why it's kind of hard to make time for it, but I want to do it. So hopefully we can do that kind of soon. But anyway, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.